Hey everyone, welcome to Josh's Injection, where we've got a major issue here.
He wanna have disco party. CP4 have disco party. All your injectors invited. Oh no.
So I've had a lot better luck buying failed pumps, CP4 pumps from CJAAs that people said were bad, but they actually weren't. I know one for sure, they said they had a turbo issue as well as the pump, and the car wouldn't start. Pump's perfectly fine, so it was the turbo and DPF causing it not to start. So yeah, I've had it's taken a while to find a pump that has actually 100% failed. I don't know if that's got to do with Canadian fuel. You see some people say the Canadian fuel is a lot better than the US fuel, and that pump did come from the sunny south, so I don't know. So today's video, we're gonna do a three-parter, I guess, so you can use the timestamps, jump around as you want. So we're gonna do a CP4 disassembly because I've got one here that I'm never gonna use. So we're gonna take that apart and then compare it to what this one looked like on how it failed. The next part, we're going to talk about the CP4 bypass kits, the Whitbread Performance one specifically, what it does, what it doesn't do, and how it's going to save replacing most of your fuel system. And then at the end, I've already filmed this part, but it was kind of a non-answer, so we're going to go over, is the Whitbread Performance kit causing fuel pump issues? So I've seen multiple people comment on posts and stuff like that saying that that kit caused pump failure. I've also had multiple people reach out to me with low rail pressure after installing the kit. So one thing was, when everybody that reached out to me, there was one thing in common, and it was who it was tuned by. So I'm gonna start off right now. So Whitbread Performance never sponsored any of my videos previous or this one. When I talk about tuning, MR tuning, same thing. It was never sponsored. It was just, I bought it out of my own pocket and made videos. But when I talk about Tunezilla, those were sponsored videos. I talked about that when I did the videos, and I've also have an affiliate link in the description. So that's who I've been tuned by, and I haven't had any issues with this kit, with Tunezilla, with 30,000 kilometers on it or so. But yeah, we're gonna do a few testings on what I thought was the issue, and then we're gonna kind of wrap it all up in the end here. So there's been a few posts that I've seen by Whitbread Performance and MR Tuning, so we can kind of finish it off there at the end. But let's start with the CP4 disassembly. Okay, so let's get this pump apart. So I've already had this apart because I needed to steal the O-ring out of it. But as you can see, the screen, it's all nice and clean. No glitter inside, so quick indication the pump hasn't actually failed. The next thing is we'll pop the top side off here. I'll grab the flat screwdriver. There. So don't do that if you want to reuse your pump. Well, she's right full of fuel still. Okay. Take this nose off. Let's grab 2 pry bars. Okay, let's do this on the floor. There we go. Nice and easy. Oh. There's fuel everywhere. Okay, so let's do a little comparison between these two here, and then we'll talk about fuel flow and how this is also changing fuel flow. Up first, let's do the cam follower. So the good one, there's absolutely no scoring. The bad one, you've got a great big flat spot. You kind of turn it over, It's got sticky spots, and then you can see all the different spots where it's stuck, and then I finally got stuck at that spot. And then looking at the lobe itself, compared to my good pump, so what went wrong in this bad one? So looking at it, I'm not a pump specialist by any mean, but we have all this chipping here. So I got a feeling this started, the top coating started flaking off, and that's where we're starting to see all these chunks in here kind of getting wrecked. I'm gonna guess that as this went around, these rough spots had more drag. There's nothing stopping this pump from this plunger from rotating. And I think once it got rotated, if it caught, dragged a bit, and then ended up like this, then it's just gonna sit there and run that lobe all the way around sideways. And obviously that doesn't take long to, especially all that does not take long before you're gonna be wrecking injectors. So yeah, that was the main complaint you see a lot of people say. There's nothing that stops this plunger from rotating. I think the rotation was more of a after issue. I think that was all this material coming off of the lobe itself, and then yeah, it rotated and then chewed more stuff off quicker. You can see a little bit of wear in there, but not a huge deal. So then as far as the fuel flow in these things, the nice and simple arrow in, arrow out. So the intermediate pump supplying fuel here, it doesn't make pressure, the pump makes flow. And then this restriction here is what will create the pressure. So from my research, it was about 63 psi. You have fuel coming in here, and then this opens at 63. So everything inside this case should be 63 psi, and then this return will be 0. So that port for the end comes in right down here, and that's what lubes all this down here, your plunger, your lobe, all that. So then the part that kind of is a bit of an issue, once all those chunks start coming off of your roller and lobe, they go up this port right here, which is cross drilled to this spot right here. So that'll be your metering valve. From the metering valve, it's got nowhere to go except up to this O-ring here, which then if we look at our plunger head, it's got this little spot here so that fuel can go in. I'm not sure if we're going to pick it up on light here. Yeah, right there. We've got this cool little check valve that just fell apart on me. Like that, I think. So the case pressure of 63 psi will be flowing down and through, which will open this up. Fuel can get down and through, and then once that roller starts rolling up here, we've got our plunger. Which will plunge, check valve checks, and then fuel goes out to your rail. So really simple system. So how does fuel get back out? I guess I never really talked about that. So any fuel inside of here, we've got 2 passages. There's one behind this bushing, and then your end cap here between the bushing and the seal, there's a cross drilled passage to here, which lines up with this O-ring, which goes over. So if I put a little bit of air you can see fuel dancing down there, and then I'm getting a face full of fuel right there. Okay, so one part that I kind of glossed over was the drilled passages. So the one that went up to your metering valve, this one's straight down, and then this one's down on an angle. So when you pull out your, I guess, pressure regulating valve, you can see in the passage down at the bottom we have one going this way, which would be the one to the case, and then we got one going up on an angle, which would have been this one here. So basically that's where your regulating valve would open, and any case fuel, and obviously before the fuel goes up there, is able to go out the return. So let's talk about this Whitbread Performance bypass kit and how simple it really is. So you look at it, we've got one port up top and then one facing down. So this line here would tee into basically your pressure line going to the pump. Basically it's blocking the passage for the fuel from the case to here, so all the contaminated fuel, when this pump fails, it can't go anywhere except for out. So your fuel filter that you install on the return is going to catch it, and it's just only going to be able to get nice clean supplied fuel from your intermediate pump feeding it. So super simple. Yeah, there's nothing that could really go about wrong about it. So as far as it causing pumps to fail, I think it's got more to do with people not priming the pumps when they install it, because you're not changing fuel flow anywhere really. The fuel that comes in here to lube here can go out there and then still out your pressure regulating valve and out your return. You're not stealing fuel, like fuel's not just disappearing from your feed. So you're not going to be feeding it low pressure fuel, which we're going to test that here later. The lube fuel can still leave where it needs to be. The only thing with me looking at this now with this end cap, with this little cross drilling, this is at 0 psi, which we've now got a return filter added. So we're going to need to make sure that return filter doesn't have excessive pressure, or else there would be a possibility of fuel leaking out of here on your timing belt. So that's going to be one thing to keep in mind. You're not going to want a plugged up return filter, because that's going to cause issues. But other than that, super simple design, does what it needs to do, and this isn't causing the pumps to fail. I've only seen one post, and on that one they said they'd seen some shavings in there when they installed that, so I've got a feeling the pump was already failing, and this didn't do anything bad. So quick and simple, that's going to be it for the disassembly part here. Okay, so I really hope I don't sound as bad as I feel. Just getting over a cold here, but I'm trying out new camera and some mics and stuff. I got some big videos coming up in the new year, so it's more of a tester, but also I'm kind of curious here. So let's get into what we're actually going to be doing. So when I installed this kit, I had two thoughts or two concerns, and that was this kit was extremely simple, almost too simple. Like why didn't Bosch do the same thing, split the flow up, or even just have different passages internally? That was my first thought. My other thought was restricting or reducing the flow to the pump, because you're basically, this pressure line, you're teeing it off. There's nothing you're doing on return side. It's still full flow into the return and back out, but now you've added this extra parallel leg to it. So I was thinking might be starving the pump. So when I did that install video, I went out and I did a wide open run. I saw that 1800, 1820 bar. I thought it was all good. But the people that have messaged me with that P0087, which is usually meaning your pump has failed, it's low rail pressure, usually it's the pump has failed and you're screwed. But it was fine before the kit. As soon as you put the kit on, they had issues. And I think I had 3 emails that all were MR tuning, and that's the only common denominator. They were all the 55 horse MR tuning tune, whereas this car has stayed Tunezilla since I did the comparison videos. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to put a pressure gauge in here and see low pressure or intermediate pressure into the pump. We're going to test it with the Tunezilla. We're We're going to test it with the 55 horse MR tuning, and then I'm going to take this kit off and go back to the stage 2 tune without that kit and see what the pressure looks like, what the rail pressure looks like, and see if this is a common issue. Okay, so usually the CP4 should flow lots for like bigger turbos, and that's what we're doing on this car in the coming weeks. So it's gonna get a bigger turbo, 4-bar map, and I'm debating on the 2200 bar rail pressure sensor. So when researching that P0087 and disaster prevention kit, nothing comes up with the TDIs, but there is some stuff with Power Stroke. So I'm not a light duty diesel guy. Besides what you see on YouTube, that's my extent for light duty. So Power Stroke guys, it seemed there was an issue with the simple disaster prevention kits and hot tunes, basically restricting or reducing the flow to the pump. So I want to make sure I've got enough flow for the turbo that I'm putting it on, so I don't want to be messing around with fuel lines and all that and having to tune revisions. So I'm going to reach out to Tunezilla here while I'm making this video, and see what they have to say about the kit. The one email that I had seen from MR Tuning, they basically said that other tuners are disabling the P0087 code, and they are actually having low rail pressure issues. So MR Tuning just keep that active, and that's why they're the only ones seeing that issue. So that's kind of why I want to do a quick log and see what's going on here. And then, yeah. So quick and easy, got it teed in. So that'll be right before the pump. Tune my gauge. Then we got my scan tool. Read by list, fuel pump. Okay. Adjust. So 60, 65 PSI roughly. So we'll see what it's like. We're gonna go to some wide open runs and see what it says. So normally you can just kind of set it up underneath the wiper blade. I got the seal out of here. The issue is all of our snow has now disappeared. Now I just have to watch snowmobiling on TV instead. So it's raining out pretty decently, so I need my wipers. So I'll probably just set it here and zip tie it to the mirror, and then as long as I can see it, that's gonna be the main thing. So I'll figure out how to get it over there. I have this made for skid steers and tractors, so I don't need that much hose normally. So it'd be nice if I had a little bit more. I could actually have it in the cab, but whatever. Okay, so we've got PCDS, our laptop, our pressure gauge, and some tools. So we're gonna go to our closed course and go do some testing and see what happens. Okay, so we got VCDS logging fuel pressure specified, fuel pressure actual, and then the percentage of the control valve. But we're gonna go do some pulls and see what the pressures actually look like for the rail pressure, and then yeah, we'll go back and we'll flash the other tune on it. So yeah, we'll do 3rd and 4th gear pulls if the roads or the track is half decent. Try that again. That was a downshifted to 2nd there. And then we'll do I guess the 4th gear here now too. So we'll add that to the log and we'll see what it looked like. Okay, so we've got the 55 horse MR tuning tune on now. The fuel rail, or the low pressure isn't really changing, so I'm going to do a log on the rail pressure and the deviation, and then we'll compare it after the fact. But yeah, I didn't think the low pressure would change until we get rid of that disaster prevention kit, but I'm kind of curious between the two tunes right now if I'm gonna have the P0087 code myself, and if the rail pressure will be all over the place. So we'll log it and then compare that after. Okay, so I made it back. So I did not see big deviations with the rail pressure on either tunes. I noticed it usually seemed like when you're shifting, or like say you're on it nice and hard and then you let off, you'd see a big spike in negative deviation, but nothing like too crazy. Like I saw like 100 bar or 150 bar. So I think that code, from what I saw, it was either around 300 to 400 bar pressure deviation before that code would actually get thrown. So I never saw anything quite that far. So we're gonna get rid of this contraption. We're just gonna put my T for the gauge in here where the disaster prevention kit would have went. And I probably threw my Allens out to get that bolted down. So I have to try and find some Allen bolts to get that fuel pressure regulator bolted back down where it needs to be. So I'll do that off camera and then we'll pick up again. Okay, so we got fuel pump turned on there. We are back to stock. Fueling up here. And we are seeing, about 63, 65 or so. So we'll go for a drive and see if that drops. So I'll do the same thing. I'm going to log rail pressure, and then I'll probably use my phone with a flashlight and we can log or watch these pressures here and see how they do. Okay, so it's obviously dark out, so I gotta use my phone. Do another log, and then we'll watch the pressure there. So again, we'll do another third gear, fourth gear pull. Of course, the thing will fall in front of it. I'd say the pressure deviations are pretty similar before and after. You can get it to spike pretty good there, just letting off, but we got no code, so I'm not too sure what to think here. Okay, so this might look a little messy, but just bear with me here. So the very first log would be the Tunezilla Stage 2 tune with the bypass kit on, which ended about here. You can see that little split. And then the next one was the MR tuning stage, or the 55 horse tune with the bypass kit, which ended here. And then the last one was just without the bypass kit, but still the MR tuning stage 2 tuning. So these big spikes up here are our rail pressure. So we got the blue and the red. I assume the blue was probably requested, the red is actual, and then the yellow down here is the pressure deviation. So if we look at the Tunezilla, we had that one there. We had 130 bar positive deviation. This one here hit 183, and it seems the biggest spikes were on the D cell, like as soon as you like let off the throttle, like when you're shifting or after a hard pull like that. You can see it, same thing here too. But for the most part, when we're doing these wide open runs, we're hitting that 1900 bar. Fuel pressure seemed like it was pretty well spot on, and little spikes here and there of positive deviation. So then we can go to the MR tuning one. I drove it a little bit more trying to get the code to come up, and I just couldn't for the life of me. Same thing, we had a couple big deviations. I'm not sure what was going on this pull here, but we hit 323 bar positive pressure. And then this one here, we had a negative deviation, 232, and same thing, it was on the decel, so it's not like we were starving it for fuel, it's just it wasn't reacting quick enough for what we were doing. And then finally our last one. So this was our stock fueling setup with the stage 2 tune. And same thing, we didn't quite have the same great big spikes like this here, but we still have the normal smaller spikes, normal regular positive and negative deviations. So overall, I'm not too sure what to say why the newer MR tuning was having issues versus this one here. I don't think that was anything to be too concerned about, in my opinion. Okay, so to wrap this video up, so with this bypass kit, I was kind of concerned that we were stealing fuel flow from somewhere and we might have flow issues. So I didn't find that was the case. The pressure for the feed, basically it stayed where it was supposed to be the whole time. And then once you kind of take it apart, it kind of makes sense. You're not stealing fuel, you're just redirecting where it goes. The other issue or concern that I had was that maybe the fuel would be getting stale or hot in the CP4, because we're basically, instead of the fuel going to the metering valve and to the injectors up there and then up and out, I thought maybe the fuel would be in here a lot longer, didn't have the same passageways to get out. But as we showed, we had that zero pressure on each side of this bushing return, as well as that cross drilling before it goes up to your metering valve. It went to that fuel pressure regulator and out. So it's not changing anything there. Fuel can come in here, lube stuff, go out, and then still go out the return as normal. So all in all, there's really no cons that I can think of, except besides that, making sure you've got a good return fuel that's not a return fuel filter that's not plugged and causing that seal to blow out. And the other issue would be is now we've got a couple more spots for fuel leaks, but that's still 63 psi, low fuel pressure. So yeah, that's I kind of like that I took this all apart. Kind of made me feel a little bit better with the kit as far as installation. So then as far as the tuners and stuff like that, so I have had 30,000 kilometers. We've done highway. We took it up to Manitoulin Island. When I went up for work, I took my Touareg up. My wife took her car. So like 130 on the highway, hills, stuff like that. We never had any low fuel issues with Tunezilla. Everybody that reached out to me with the MR tuning, it seemed to be, it was the first hard pull it would come up with the 55 horse tune. But I couldn't get it to act up, and I drove a lot more than just on camera trying to get it to act up and see what it was doing. Looking at those graphs that I pulled up with VCDS, rail pressure looked like it was spot on. Intermediate pressure wasn't dropping, so my tune is an older tune, so I don't know if something got changed between 2022, I think I bought that, or 23. I don't even know, 23 I think. So I'm not sure if something between 23 and now had changed in his tune to cause this issue. But basically, so MR tuning now has a fix. So if you have this kit and you want to run it on your stage on the 55 horse tune, just send him an email and he'll send you a tune revision, and then you should be good to go. So this kit's going back on when I bring the car in to do the turbo and tuning and all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that. And if you stay to this point, let me know if you notice any difference on filming and audio. I've got some stuff over Christmas, so I'm hoping these coming videos, I've spent more on TDI parts this last 6 months than probably the last 10 years. So I'm hoping to have some cool videos here in the coming month. I'm hoping to get started on some of the stuff. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.